So, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. I'm Lindsay Bridges from Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, and this is our regular time for our Tuesday evening community drop in group. So, whether you're participating live now or watching this later, the recording later, we're glad that you're practicing with us. I'm glad that you are able to take this time for care. So, welcome, Sharon. And I also see that Renard's here, which is really sweet. And we'll get started. If you're new, we're going to do about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of meditation. And then I have a sharing. And then afterwards, if you'd like to join in a Zoom room discussion, would love to have you there. So I'm going to begin with a standing practice and invite you to find whatever posture for standing practice best supports your body. So this is a practice I learned, and I'll put a link up on it. I've done it a couple of times before. A really sweet sequence, initially designed for kids, but it just feels good for anyone. So I offer it to adults or kids, whoever wants to participate. The opening move is actually a modified Qigong movement. So you can think of it as Qigong, or you can think of it as Spider-Man breathing, whichever works better for you. So taking a moment to center the body, bringing the hands, both hands to the chest. Feeling into the body standing here now. Taking a breath in, releasing it out. And then we're going to breathe out, breathe in and out with the sound. So breathe in and out. Really feel that in-breath and the release. And even exaggerate the sound if you like. One more. The next one we call crocodile breath. Bringing the hands out to the left. Breathe in and out. One more. Take a moment to just feel that energy moving through the body. And then the other side. One more. Come back into a standing pose. Feel this energy moving throughout the body. Next movement is called stressed adult at work and release. So breathe in and clench everything tight and let it go. Breathe in tight and one more and release. Dolphin breath. One more. And let it go. Butterfly breath. And letting the breath be gentle and natural. Feeling into that natural in and out. Last one. Release. Standing like a mountain. Really dropping the awareness down through the soles of the feet into the earth below. The knees are soft. Really allowing the whole spine to drop down through all of the vertebrae, down right through the tailbone, also down through the legs and the earth below. Feeling how that gives a natural upward lift. The spine both energetically rooting down into the ground and lifting skyward. It's like a mountain. Feeling into both the stillness and the movement of this mountain pose. Connection with the earth and the sky. The breath and the body and the mind and the heart. Whatever's here right now for you. Then we're going to carry our standing meditation right into sitting posture. However that works best for you. Take a moment to really adjust the posture. Allow the feet to feel connected with the floor, the ground, the earth, the lower part of the body. This rooted foundation. Which allows the upper body to rise up out of the seat. Really take in your body sitting in this space right now. You can even open your eyes and look all around you. Using sight as a way of feeling yourself here. And look all the way behind you. Look up and down. Notice the support of the chair, sounds in the room, sounds outside of the room. Notice whatever is going on in the mind, the thinking mind. Notice whether it's still distracted, caught up in some way, or settling. Notice if there's any judgment one way or the other. What's it like to simply acknowledge? Not so much getting caught up in a story, but acknowledge whatever story the thinking mind might be producing. And drop into the body. Feel how that is playing out in your own body. Whatever emotions might be associated with this moment right now, just as it is. Whatever you are noticing, offering it a breath, ventilating the mind, body, and heart, letting the breath sweep into all that is here, both the bringing in new life, new energy on an in-breath, and that sweet release on an out-breath, letting go. So when we were doing our standing meditation, we ended in that strong mountain. We will continue with the mountain metaphor. I invite you right now, as you're breathing this body, mind, heart, allow your mind's eye to bring up whatever comes to mind when you think beautiful mountain. You don't have to pick a perfect mountain or the right mountain. Just be curious. You open to the idea of beautiful mountain and see what arises. And then begin to let your mind settle right there. Image of this mountain. Notice maybe it's a warm summer day. What kind of life is growing on this mountain? Really, as if you were a bird and you could see the whole of the mountain. Notice how the mountain's rooted down into the earth, reaches to the sky, and is this home, a refuge, a shelter, home to so much life. What kind of life is growing on your mountain? Maybe it has high alpine meadows. Maybe the peak even has snow in the summer. Maybe it's forested, the entire slopes. Warm summer day. What scents might come on a cool breeze? What smells? Mountain air. What kind of sound do you hear as that cool breeze brushes over the surface of the mountain? Even in the warmth of the sun, can you feel into the coolness, just a bit of coolness of mountain air? And once you have a clear image of this mountain, allow yourself to become the mountain, your own lower body, mountain base, part of the earth itself. Notice how that sinking down into the earth is balanced perfectly with this uplift right from the earth itself, reaching towards the sky. Right up through the spine to the top of the head. From the top of the head, the mountain slopes naturally fall off to the sides, right through the shoulders and the arms. Allow yourself to feel into being home for all the life you support. Whether it's trees or animals, small creatures, large creatures. Notice how even the soil is full of life. Breathing, living mountain. And as happens so often on warm summer days, the day goes on, dark clouds begin to roll in. Big black dark clouds covering the whole sky, winds picking up, till at last this summer thunderstorm burst forth, driving rains, fierce winds, lightning, thunder, crashing. And notice how you are a mountain. No matter how intense this summer thunderstorm might be, there's this possibility of dropping down into the depths of the mountain, place untouched by any summer thunderstorm. Calm, abiding, breathing, living mountain essence. Notice storms come, storms go. This one, of course, it runs through its fury and passes on. Day becomes night. The moon and the stars are out. Different kind of quiet. Night becomes day. And so it goes bit by bit. The days becoming shorter, the nights becoming longer. What was hot with the heat of summer becoming cool till it's downright cold. The greens, the vibrancy of color of summer are giving way to fall, bronzes, golds, whatever colors are natural for your mountain in this ever-changing season. Now, till even this falls away, and one day there's a white blanket, even deeper quiet, sense of life sleeping. Bitter cold, what was flowing freezes as ice. With that cold of winter come ferocious Arctic blasts, storms, surface ever changing. And underneath any storm, any conditions on the surface, is this depth of mountain calm abiding essence. Feeling into this mountain surface, these changing conditions, down into the living depths, breathing in, breathing out. What's cold and frozen, of course, doesn't stay that way either. Slowly the days become longer, the nights become shorter. What was frozen begins to melt. What was ice begins to drip its water. Maybe even a few brave green shoots come up right even as the last of the snow hasn't quite melted away yet. Till there's that earliest green haze, that early spring, that turning to the new life, the new energy, spring, becoming the fullness and the abundance of spring. which becomes summer, the heat, coolness of fall, cold of winter. Seasons coming, seasons going. Feeling into the ebbs and flows of the changing weather. A natural, normal part of being a mountain. The surface of change. And underneath the strength of the mountain, this rootedness down into the ground, into the earth, part of the earth. Deep, calm, abiding, untouched by any changing surface conditions. Breathing, living essence. Exploring this mountain nature of your own body, mind, and heart. Continual ebbs and flows of changing surface conditions. The untouched depths. Noticing wherever the mind is now. Is it caught up in some weather storm? Or is it settling down into the depths? Or exploring the wholeness of the mountain, all that's here. What is it like to be able to really see the distracted mind whenever it arises? The same kind of understanding as a passing summer or winter storm. Rise up and rise down. Whatever emotions are here. Kind of weather pattern these emotions. Again, of course, ever changing. Kind of weather pattern emotions of your own body at this moment. What's it like to explore that weather pattern and drop below, down into the breath? Noticing how you can shift your awareness, being really curious in the wholeness of this mountain. And coming to the breath, breathing in, breathing out. It's always good to be with you all. This is our chance to greet each other. If you'd like to use the chat for that, it's always kind of fun knowing who's here. Feel free to write a greeting, write a gratitude. If you're comfortable with that, it's kind of fun. So maybe I'll add a gratitude. And I've long learned that there's a little bit of a lag. So if you want to put something up there, we can read it as they arrive. Um, so I have a sharing for tonight. And I want to start with one of my favorite poems from Rumi. This one's called Birdwings. Your grief for what you've lost lifts a marrow up to where you're bravely working. Expecting the worst, you look, and instead, here's the joyful face you've been wanting to see. Your hand opens and closes and opens and closes. If it were always a fist or always stretched open, you would be paralyzed. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding. The two is beautifully balanced and coordinated as bird wings. I have long appreciated the naming of this energy of life, of the natural way of things, of opening and closing, and opening and closing. The muscles of the heart contract and relax. The breath flows in and out. Waves roll in and out. The tide rolls in and out. The moon waxes and wanes. The seasons come and go. This opening and closing is such a natural rhythm of life, such a natural rhythm of things in the world, that it really shouldn't be too much of a surprise that our personal journeys are full of the same rhythm of opening and closing. And I have to say, over the last several days, I have been really aware of my own rhythm of opening and closing. And it feels worth sharing this as this rhythm of opening and closing can trip us up in so many ways when we forget its normalcy. For example, if we're in one of those really good feeling natural flow states, we think something's wrong when the ebb begins to appear. This goes against our expectations of personal growth as some sort of smooth, continuing mountain climbing journey. Or what can be even harder is when we are deep in an ebb, a closing, a withdrawing, and we feel like it's going to last forever. Um, we forget that every ebb eventually has a natural turning place back to flow. And when we forget that, kind of lost and feeling stuck, we tend to do things that make the stuckness last longer. So it's really helpful to remember these ever changing personal tides and then get wiser and more skillful at being with whatever opening or closing that we are in. So I had a clear example for this for myself this past weekend. 5 weeks ago, we moved Charlotte Center for Mindfulness online, and between navigating that move, between attending to my family, learning how to sew face masks, I have to say I've had plenty at home to engage me and really make my days feel useful and full. I certainly, like I'm sure everyone else, had the whole range of emotions regarding our situation to deal with, but I had a certain kind of energy to deal with this, a certain kind of energy to meet that full range of emotions that was coming up. For me, this really wasn't very surprising. This is one of my patterns. Um, Once I can clearly see some sort of crisis place, my tendency is to then get all over it, to really dive into figuring out how to work as best as possible, how to be the most skillful with what's going on, how to find some way to open up that feels okay in relationship with this, whatever it is. And this was certainly my journey when I was working with breast cancer. It's certainly been my journey with other very challenging situations that have risen. It's a really useful pattern to have. And what I also know about myself is that eventually that surge of energy to meet a situation starts to ebb. For our current situation, my energy ebb really happened this weekend. It had been coming for a while, the hints were there, but the tide clearly turned Saturday morning when I woke up. Suddenly, it felt like all of my energy was being sucked out to sea. I found myself struggling to get out of bed, found myself struggling to motivate myself to be engaged in some sort of healthy way with the day. I found myself even struggling to imagine what possibility is there even for engaging in a healthy way with this day. I can go to both anxious tendency and I can go to a depressive tendency. Saturday morning, what was rearing up in front of me was a fogged out, beached whale depressive sort of state. That kind that can be so suffocating if it goes unchecked. And I just have to say, it's amazing to me after all these years of practice, how strong still that voice of despair can come up at times, and how powerful the pull of a depressive undertow or riptide can have. These years of practice, they haven't made my ebb and flow go away. How could they? This is a natural part of life for us to have these ebbs and flows. What the practice has done instead is give me a way that allows me to swim back to shore safely, more quickly, more skillfully. So as I was writing this, I really was thinking about the Riptide instructions posted for swimmers at all the beaches. This is what I felt like I was working with on Saturday. Number one, don't panic. Number 2, don't fight against the current. Number 3, swim parallel to the shore until the tide loosens its grip. Number 4, then swim back to shore. These are really useful instructions. We get caught in some sort of internal riptide, and that first step is so huge not to panic. What is it like instead if we can just recognize and name, no matter how intense it is, recognize and name, yeah, ebb and flow, normal, don't need to problem make. Can we pay attention to not getting in a fight with ourselves about it, or not just giving up and letting the ebb sweep us out to ocean, sweep us away? When we can recognize the normalcy of this, then we can start to find whatever way we might be able to swim parallel to the shore. This kind of swimming is full of all the beautiful, strong mindfulness qualities such as patience, compassion, non-striving, trust. It is a willingness to let the moment be as messy as it really is, while being deeply intentional and opening up to whatever skills or supports that are needed, either internally or externally. And very, very, very important. What is it like not to make the ebb a problem? To just be able to recognize this is the way of things, the coming and going. And if I swim with it with the right kind of skill, I will find myself back on the shore. So there's a kind of swimming that both finds and conserves energy right in the fluid and undertow. That's a kind of swimming that allows us to be with the reality of what's happening in this moment, with learning to find that clear sight on the shore, both. So for me on Saturday, it was really helpful to just have the practice to say, this morning, this ebb, it feels like this. It felt really deeply crappy, not good. But what I knew was that the ebb can become a flow. What I knew is I could look for ways to swim right in the midst of its grip, knowing that the tide would turn. Our deeper voices of intention and care are so helpful in allowing us to do that. They can feel like someone from the shore calling out instructions or throwing a lifeline. And in this way, some point between Saturday and Sunday, it just gradually turned itself back around in a way that was really nice to have happen. But knowing that kind of coming back into a more natural flow, that it will have its ebb again, it's just useful. It's useful to understand that natural opening and closing. So none of this is to say that this is easy. For some of us, for either because of our wiring or because of our experiences in life, riding this ebb and flow may be far more challenging than this short description of a couple of days. Certainly have had some in my own life that have been a lot more intense than this one. It is to say, however, that ebb and flow is normal, and it is our birthright to have the possibility of learning to ride this rhythm with more ease, with more wise care, and more skillfulness. So, if you were to pause right now, what do you know about your own patterns of ebb and flow? What kind of habit tendencies do you have with them? For example, if you're in an ebb, is there a habit of judging as bad? Habit of getting swept away in the current, not remembering that it will turn around? Or do you fight the current? In other words, get engaged in a fight with your own self. What might swimming parallel to the shore look like for you? It's kind of an interesting place to consider. It means allowing things to be as they are and still be skillful, accepting, allowing, skillful, right in the grip in the way things are. The last question I want to offer out there, it's so easy to think that this is work we should be doing on our own. When do you know you need support from the shore? And what kind of support from the shore is useful for you? We are meant to be in relationship. And especially right now when we're challenged in that way, it's really, really helpful to know what kind of support from the shore is needed. So we have a couple more messages from Renard. I'm grateful for my health today. And Sharon, grateful for change. Yeah, you were right in line with the talk. And KT, grateful for connection. It's really nice that we have ways to connect, even with the situation as it is. So I'm going to put the Zoom link down here in the chat, and I have also put it in the description box below. Would love to have any of you who want to hop over for a bit more practice sharing and discussion. Um, um, if you haven't been to the Zoom room yet, it's a really friendly place to be. We would love to have you. We've had some very sweet meetings, and it's kind of fun to have a different kind of interaction than is possible on the live stream part. So if that calls to you at all, I really want to encourage you to come and join. And before we go to the Zoom room, I'm going to close us out here with a very short meditation, very short closing practice. So again, finding your body, connecting with the floor, gravity, the earth, the breath. Maybe touching back into the mountain kinds of qualities that are here, possible. Storms and the change and the surface. Knowing down in the depths is a rooted strength, rooted part of the whole of the earth, living, breathing part of the universe. Sending good wishes to your own self for compassion and understanding of this being human with these ebbs and flows, tides in and out. and compassion and understanding for all of us everywhere. May we all have the joy and the freedom that comes from understanding this being alive, this being human, the openings and closings we all face at some level or another. May we have the joy and the freedom of understanding that for ourselves and for each other. Thank you. And I will open up the Zoom room in just a moment.